guys. Welcome back to Wealth with Love. Today we have on Steve Ross. And Steve, if
How
you
you
want to go
guys doing?
ahead and introduce yourself and maybe mention some of the groups that you're in and how we met.
Yeah, yeah. So Steve Ross. I've got a couple different companies, but the one that I met Lauren through was my real estate company, which is Level 19 Homes. Lauren and I are part of the same Sub Two community with Pace Morby. We're also part of the Owners Club subgroup as well, which has been a ton of fun, and very excited to be a part of that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Owners Club has been a blast. I think we've all we just got sucked into this whirlwind, and it's been a lot of fun to see how everybody's grown just in the couple months that we've been in it.
hmm Yeah, and just all the cool stuff, and again, just being involved with kind of like-minded individuals and stuff. It's exciting to again be around other people that don't just say they want to get things done, but are working to get things done. That are doing things, or being involved in projects. I gotta say, I feel grateful for joining Sub Two and subsequently Owners Group, um, because I feel like I've always loved real estate. I've always I've done real estate, but like being a part of a community, and I've joined other real estate communities before as well, and no shade, no knocking them, but this seems like more of a community. Like people seem
Yeah.
more friendly, more outgoing, more willing to help, more willing to talk to you, and just it's been a very positive experience, at least for me personally. Again, I don't know about everyone else's experience, but my experience has been really good with it. So,
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I was actually talking to Amy Rendy the other
mhm.
day.
Love
And we
Amy.
were
Yeah.
just, yeah, she's awesome. And that's the cool thing is like I've met some people that I probably like you. I've never would have met you if we weren't
hmm
both in this group. And being able to work together and just kind of see the growth that you've had in the past couple months. And yeah, we've been given the puzzle pieces, so it's just like you have to put them into place, or maybe the
hmm
chess pieces would be a better analogy. You've got to put them into play. And it's really cool because everybody in this community, because it's not easy to necessarily get into.
hmm
Everybody's serious. So they're given the
Yeah.
pieces and, not that sub two isn't great, not that that community isn't awesome and Gator and TC. But you tend to get a little bit more of people that have been in and maybe they don't do much with it or it takes them a
hmm
while. So it's cool to be able to have connections with people that are really looking to scale and right now and not,
Yeah.
10 years down the line.
And that's an interesting point. It's like I think there's a lot of groups you can join, whether they're free or paid, whether they're virtual or in person or some combination of all. And you meet people at different parts of their journey, right? And none of them are
Hmm.
necessarily bad, but you got to find the one that kind of jives with where you are on your journey, or even is like a little bit ahead of where you're at on your journey, so that it's pushing you or pulling you to catch up to that. And that's what I feel Owners Club is, right? It's forcing you to level up and to take that next step and to keep progressing and stuff. So it's been
Yeah,
great.
I
Again,
couldn't
Owners
agree
Club's been
more.
great. Sub two's been great. The people have been great. It's all been great. Life's great. I mean, again,
Right.
life sucks. Life is good.
Yep.
Like
Yep. It really is all mindset. Like there's a lot of people that, I know from just growing up and I think when you talk about mindset, you kind of get some eye rolls and like, oh yeah, I know. But it really is. It changes the way you respond to everything that comes your way instead of looking at things and, oh, I can't do that. I don't have the money,
mhm,
or whatever the issue might be. That's why I love these groups so much is we've all been able to we get creative and we bounce ideas off of each other. And you and
mhm.
I even we had a great conversation in Arizona and it was like we were just constantly going back and forth. Like I'd say something and go, yeah, or we could do this, or we could do that. So
Yeah,
it's cool to
having that
have.
like-minded sounding board, right? It's
Yeah.
great. It's interesting too because I feel like even more. It's funny you mentioned mindset because like again, this is me personally, just my experience, but like mindset has never really been my issue, right? Like, I don't know if it's just the way I came up, my background, whatever, but like for me, sometimes when I think of mindset, I almost discount it because I'm like, well, of course you have this mindset. Like, everyone would have this mindset, right? But that's not always the case. And so it is important, I think, to have the right mindset and to be around the right people that foster that mindset of growth, of abundance, of pushing forward, of overcoming, whatever you want to call it, right? But the mindset to get stuff done and to move your life forward. And it's funny because like I don't think about it until I'm confronted with it. So like I have this friend and I love this friend, and I'm not going to say his name because I'm going to throw a little shade his way. Um, he's my boy from growing up, right? So like we grew up in the same neighborhood, we like had the same friends and stuff, right? And he's great, one of my oldest friends, right? But like him and I, our mindsets are totally different, right? And so I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many times over the last 5, 10, 15 years I've come to him and been like, hey man, I got this thing. You want to come and take a ride with me? Like, you want to go on this journey? You want to do this thing? And it's always no, right? But it's not
Hmm.
just no. It's like I can tell he wants to say yes, but his fear is holding him back. And it's like that's the mindset. It's you mentioned like, oh, the mindset of not being able to have enough money or something. I don't even think it's the money aspect. I think it's fear that holds people back. And it's crazy to me. And this is gonna sound cliche, but it's like the old adage of like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
like it sounds silly and stupid, but it's so true. And like I get it.
Hmm.
There's real fears, there's real consequences in life. But I think sometimes people put too much of a focus or they ascribe too much value to the consequence of maybe potentially failing, and they don't put enough weight on the consequence of not trying.
That
And
was very well said. Yeah.
it it's just I mean, every time I'll talk to him and he'll be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" He's like, "Nah, you know, eh, life, this and that, right?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, what's wrong?" He's like, just job sucks, or wish I had more money." Okay, cool. Well, bro, if you want, I got this thing. Why don't you come with me, take a ride, right? And like for him, it'd be so easy, right? Like
Yeah.
he's got great credit, right? He doesn't like his job, but his credit is awesome, right? And so I'm like, bro, just come be a credit partner. Like you literally don't have to do anything. Like I've got the team, we'll do the whole project, and I'll just cut you in. You'll get a piece of the profits. Like literally, I'm not asking for a dollar at all out of your bank, right? And I'm like, you'll make good money. He's like, yeah, but like, what if it messes up? I'm like, yeah, if something goes wrong, we'll have to deal with it. And I'm not gonna tell you nothing's ever gonna go wrong, right? Like
Right.
things sometimes go wrong. That happens. But like, what in life can you do that nothing ever goes wrong 100%, and you know that going in? Like nothing. There's nothing in life that is 100% no problems ever foolproof. Like that just
Absolutely.
doesn't exist. So like the idea that you go, well, what if something goes wrong? Okay, what
But
if
what
it
if something goes right?
exactly? I'm like,
Yeah.
but what if it goes right? Like if it goes wrong, we'll deal with it. But like more importantly, what if it goes right? And like what are you
Hmm.
gonna do so you don't do this? And that's fine. But like it's like every conversation. Like we'll talk every couple months, right? And like, hey, how you doing? No, still wish I had more money. Got this other thing? No, what if something goes wrong? A couple months later. So and eventually I asked her, I was like, bro, we've had the same conversation for 5 years. I go, so what are you gonna do? Like, what are you doing to change this? Like, you tell me you're not happy. You wish you had more money. What are you doing to change it? And he
Yep.
literally, and this part blows my mind. He goes, nothing. I'm like, so how's it gonna get better? I don't know. Probably won't.
Oh
And that's
gosh.
okay. Like
Yeah.
that's like
You're
to
fine
me,
with that?
right? Like the fear of not having a light at the end of the tunnel, the fear of not having the prospect of something getting better. To me, that's more scary than the fear that like I'm gonna do something and I might incur a problem or encounter a problem that I could probably solve and then get past, right? Like
Yep.
that's a small thing. Like that's life. We all encounter obstacles and then you get through them. That's part of what makes life great, right? I mean, that's I think as human beings, we derive meaning and satisfaction from overcoming challenges in life. And in fact, like
Absolutely.
I think some people even go, look, if you don't have any challenges in your life, you're probably actually an unhappy person. It's like one of those weird things that like it's counterintuitive. You think, oh, I want the easy life. I want no problems at all. And look, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have some less problems. I'd love to have an
Yeah.
easier life. But you don't want like no problems. You don't want
Right.
not even problems. You don't want no challenges because like
I was gonna say,
challenges
you want challenges, they push you to grow, and that
exactly
feeling that you get when you do, like, get it done, you're like,
when
"Oh
you
my
overcome.
gosh." Yeah, and then again, going back to mindset, it's almost like it subconsciously unlocks something in your brain where, like, once you do one, because I know I struggled a little bit with mindset, and I mean, I still do, right? I have times where I'm like, "Oh, that's kinda scary, that's a lot," or "That's a
Hmm.
big one," or, whatever it is. But then I sit back and I'm like, yeah, but if it works out, and if it
Hmm.
doesn't, then you figure it out, and that's another great thing about the community, right? Is there are so many people that have dealt, with more than where I am. So I can call and go, hey, this happened. What would you do? And
Yeah,
then being able to, you have the guidance and you have the team, and friends backing you that'll tell you how to, how to navigate.
go
But at
help
the
you
end of the
overcome it.
day, I think, and Cody Sanchez talks about this too,
I
having
love
somebody
Cody.
write your paycheck is should be the one of the scariest things ever. If you depend solely on that paycheck, it's like not that there's anything wrong with having a W-2, because I know there's a lot of people
Yeah,
in the community that do really well in real
yeah,
estate and they still keep their W-2 because they love it.
yeah.
And that's great. But it's like if you solely depend on that paycheck that's coming in, every week, every other week, whatever it is, and without it, you can't keep a roof over your head or you can't feed your family, that's terrifying. But people
That's
just
scary.
don't think about it that way because we're conditioned by society to just, oh, we just go to work and
Yeah,
same routine every day.
that lack of ownership or agency in your own life, like again, to us, that's more scary. I think to other people, I think they see a big company and they go, well, it's a huge company, so it can't fail, and so I'm
Mhm.
okay. But yeah, the company might be real big. That doesn't mean you're always okay. Like there was the old quote of Lee Iacocca, I think it was the GM for GE, where it's like every year I'm going to fire the bottom 20% of my entire staff. It's like, okay, so if you're one of those people, like, oh, I work for this big, huge company, cool. You could still get canned and now you have nothing. So, like,
Yep.
just because you work for a big company doesn't mean you automatically have this security. The company might still be there, but you might not be.
Yep.
It reminds me of when I was younger, I was like 20, 21 years old. And I had left a company that I was at. I was a manager at this telemarketing company, and I was in college, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus just on school. And like I, took double overloaded classes. I did all stuff, and it was great. I got to like study abroad. Like I went like to Europe
That's
twice when
cool.
I was like 19, right? Which I was like, oh, this is so cool. College is great. But when I came back, and I was like, oh, I gotta like get back on track with some shit and like figure out how to make some money and
I
stuff,
gotta
right?
figure something out.
It was
Yeah.
it was fun, but like, oh, what am I gonna do now? And so I went back to go work at this telemarketing company as like a fallback thing, right? Just because like I'm like it's easy, I know all the people. I'm not even gonna go back as manager. I'm just gonna go because I was good on the phones and stuff. And I was like, I was gonna do that as like a placeholder. I'll be there for a couple weeks just so I figure something out. I get a little check. So I go back and I'm asking the other managers, like my old friends and stuff, and I'm like, hey, so what's different? I've been gone for whatever 6 months or a year or something. I'm like, what's different? And they're like, oh, not much, this blah, blah, blah. But we got this new manager. I was like, oh, cool. And they're like, yeah, he's a young guy like you. Because I think at the time I was like 21. And I was the youngest manager there previously. Now this guy was like 22, right? I was like, oh, cool. And they're like, yeah, he does something on the side, though. He showed me like a check for like 20K. And I was like, what? Is it illegal? They're like, no, I don't think so. I go, cool. I'm going to go talk to him. And so like, come on
Be
over. I'm
right
like, hey,
back.
bro, you don't know me. I'm Steve. Heard, blah, blah, blah. Like, heard you do something on the side for 20K, something with like, because I was like, what is it? And the other guy's like, I don't know, something with like housing or mortgages or loans or something. I was like, you do something for 20K with like mortgages. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm a loan officer on the side. I was like, cool. Show me what that is. He
I
was like,
went
what?
in.
Like, who are you, bro? And like, I literally just pestered the hell out of him. And it's funny because the only reason he was even at that job, again, talking about different mindset, right? He was a loan officer. And this is like pre 2008, like pre financial crisis, like when loan officers were just killing it. Everybody was getting approved. Everyone was
Oh
making,
yeah.
getting a loan and stuff, right? And so he would have checks where like he'd do one deal and make 20 grand, right? But then like maybe the next month, like it was slow or closings got pushed and
It
like he
wasn't
would have like
consistent.
3 grand that month or something, right?
Yep.
And like his wife, she came up in like that traditional sense, right? Like that real secure stuff, right? So she couldn't deal with the roller coaster. And for him, he was like us, he was like, I'm going to bet on myself. Like, why would I go work for
Yeah.
somebody else? Like, I'm going to bet on me. And he's just doing the math. He's going, honey, if we make 20 grand one month and we make, 4 grand the next month, I go, between 2 months, we average $12,000 a month. Like, that's not bad.
That's
It's
not bad.
two kids are early 20s. Like, we're good,
Right.
right? But for her, she's like, no. So she literally told him, she's like, you need to go get a normal 9 to 5 job. And to him, he's like, this is crazy. I could go call someone and write a mortgage and make more than I'm going to make in like 3 months. She goes, I don't care. You got to go get a stable job, something with security. And again, we're
Yeah.
not talking like benefits, like, because again, it was like part time for him, right? But
Yeah.
so he literally took this job, and I think he was making, again, back then, I don't know, like $12 an hour, $15 an hour or something, like whatever whatever it was. Maybe it was more, but it was low, right? It was
Right.
comparatively not worth his time, but he was doing it
Yeah.
like his wife told him to.
Yeah. If he would have just doubled down on the mortgages.
So
Yeah.
it's just a totally different mindset. And again, not knocking W-2s, not knocking that. Like ownership is not for everyone. Like on the
Yeah,
one hand, you go, oh, I wish
absolutely.
everyone should do it. It's great, a lot of it, but it's really not, right? And obviously, you can't have all owners and then no workers, right?
Right.
But
Absolutely.
like, it's hard. But I do think that more people should be willing to take a little bit of a risk and try to better their lives with the idea that if you do run into a problem, you can probably overcome the problem. And when
Right.
you overcome the problem, just like you were saying, the satisfaction you're going to get, I mean, that to me, that's part of what life is. Like, that's almost what gives you life and gives you
Mhm.
purpose, right? You hear about the stories about people, oh, yeah, they retired and a year or two later they died, right? It's like, well, why
Right.
is that? This is just anecdotal, but like,
And those are probably the people that were like, "Oh, we'll do it when we retire," 'cause I travel a lot, and
mhm,
that's people, I'm 29, I had to think about it for a second. 29, and, like, I've traveled quite a bit for compared to people my age, and people always, my dad's friends, my mom's right, they're always like, "You've traveled so much, I
mhm,
wish," and I'm like, "But you can," and
you
they're like,
can.
"Well, when I retire," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, I understand, but that's also it's a mindset." It's for me, I've seen too many people not make it to retirement, whether it
Hmm.
be whatever the circumstances are, health, whatever. I've seen too many people have the one day and never make it to the one day that I'm
Yeah,
like, that's just not gonna happen for me.
that's sad.
I think that there's a very, like you can find a balance in
Yeah.
having, like, a nice life that you enjoy and if traveling's your thing or whatever is your thing that makes you happy, you do that while you're still pursuing your dreams. And back to what you were saying about, like, not everybody has to be an owner, I completely agree with you. Not everybody should be an owner. We need people that are hard workers and wanna clock in and clock out, but at the same time, if you're one of those people, you can come and, work with Steve and just be a private money lender because there's
Hmm.
not a whole lotta they can park their money in whatever investment for a period of time, and you don't necessarily have to own a business to do that. So I
Right.
think it more so goes back to just the mindset of, making your money work for itself. Even if you don't want to own a company and doing fix and flips and rentals and all the things, you can be on the
Hmm.
other side of things. And that was actually what brought me into the community in the first place is because I still have my W-2 with my dad.
Hmm.
And I knew that I didn't at the time. I was managing a horse farm and I just had a lot going on. So I was like, there is no way that, I know that that's what I want to do is have a large portfolio. But at this very moment, I can't, but I also don't want to wait.
Yeah.
So I got in and I was like, I've got money sitting in the bank. Why not put it to work, kind of learn the back end of things, and
Hmm.
then, decide if when I'm ready to start building the portfolio.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even have to be, being an owner. It can just be changing the mindset of like making your money work for you rather than you working for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and going back to the thing you were saying about like, people want to wait until they retire, but then they might not make it there. I agree with you. As far as we know, we get one playthrough. Like we get one life, right? So it's like if there's something you want to do, prioritize it. And I'm not saying you can do everything you want to do. Like obviously there's realistic concerns. Like I get it.
Right.
I've been broke, right? It's like I get it when it's you have no money, you can't do it. But like at least have the mindset of go, you know what? I want to try to make this better. I want to work towards getting this sooner rather than later. Because when you put something off forever and go, well, I'll just do it when I'm retired. It's like, oh, you know what? I'll start working out like later, right? Well,
Right.
later's never going to come. You're going to get older, you're
Right.
going to be fat, and
It's
you're not going
always
to be able to do it.
Monday. Next
Yeah, it's
Monday.
always next Monday, right? Don't prioritize trying to, and even if you can't do it now, do something that works towards doing it now.
Mhm.
Again, going back to the other point I was saying, it's like, I've heard these stories about people who they retire and then they die a year or two later. And, anecdotally, it seems like that it's because they then lack purpose, right? They worked,
Mhm.
work, work, work. They had all this purpose. They were overcoming challenges. They derive satisfaction and meaning from doing things in life, from having purpose, from overcoming challenges, from creating value. Then they retire. They don't know what to do, and shortly later, it's like they're done. They're done with life,
Yep.
And so, like going back to what you're saying in terms of mindset, it's how do you do things now to continue to derive purpose and get satisfaction from overcoming challenges, meaning that you don't run away, you don't not take a chance because something might go wrong. You understand if it goes wrong, you can overcome it, and actually that will be good for you. And
Hmm.
then use that to then build the life, or build towards at least the life that you want to have, so that you're not putting things off forever.
Right.
And again, going to your point, I agree that, if somebody wants something better, right? But maybe like you said, they go, hey, I like my W-2. I like the security of it at least, or I don't have the time, or whatever the case is, whatever their reasons, whether they're real or not, if they feel it, they're real to them, right? And so you go, okay, well, there's other ways you can do things, like you said, to still get that autonomy and have that ownership in a sense. You can go partner with people. You go partner with
Yep.
someone, go, look, I'm going to bring the money. You bring all the skills, knowledge, expertise, and you do all the work, right?
Yep.
And then together we're going to share in the spoils. Because I feel
Yep.
like making money is almost like a spectrum, right? It's like there's like three levels, right? Like the first level is like you go, I got a lot of time, but I have no expertise and I have no money. Okay, so I'm going to trade my time for money, right? I'm going to go do the grunt work. I'm going to do the stuff, right? I'm going to partner up with someone to do the menial stuff, and I'm not going to maybe make a lot, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to make some. Okay,
Hmm.
and then eventually you move to that second level where you go, okay, now you know something, right? You've got some expertise, you've got some skill, you've got a network, something. So you go, okay, I can hire that first person who's got a lot of time and doesn't know anything, but maybe I don't have all the money to just do it yet. So I'm gonna trade my expertise, right? That's how I'm gonna create value. That's how I'm gonna create wealth for myself. And then eventually, ideally, you get to that last pillar where you just have the money and you go, look, I don't need to trade my time. I don't even need to trade my knowledge. I have the money. I'll
Yep.
just put the money up. I'll let other people do all the work. I'll be the money, and I'll create the value that way. And so it's like, if you're already there and you don't want to go back and say, I don't want to learn how to, just partner with the right people. And again, like when we do deals, almost all the deals I've done, we've brought in partners. So
Yeah.
again, if
It's a tool.
it's so much easier. Like we go,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to do a rental. We're going to buy this property creatively. You bring in the money. We'll go fix it up. We'll manage the whole thing, and we'll split the profits 50-50. Or we're going to do a fix and flip, right? We got a flip right now that we're doing down in St. Louis. It's like, okay, you put up the money, but you don't got to swing a hammer. You don't even have to know
Right.
how to hire a contractor. We'll take care of all that stuff.
Take care of
We'll
all of it.
sell it.
Yep.
And when it sells, you'll get all your money back, and then we'll split the profits,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so there's ways to get ownership of your life without necessarily having to devote a ton of time or other resources if you feel you can't at this right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a big misconception is you do have to have, a bunch of money. So touching back on, when you were mentioning your friend that you
Hmm.
grew up with, you
Yeah.
had mentioned that he didn't have money, but he had good credit. So for
Hmm.
somebody that maybe they're watching and they don't necessarily have a lot of money, they don't necessarily want to be an owner, maybe they're not sure yet, but they have great credit and they want to, you know, start moving in that direction. What would that look like with you?
So with us, so we have a program where, and everyone's probably seen this stuff, like, so it's not unique necessarily to me, but where we can go and help people get like 50 to $150,000 of 0% interest credit cards, right? I actually did this for one of my partners for one of the businesses that we bought, and it worked out great. We bought an energy company, an electrical services company. We needed to buy more generators, and I said, hey, I got this program. Partner goes, great, I got good credit, let's do it. He did it. Within 2 weeks, we had a bunch of credit cards, 0% interest. We bought a ton of generators, propelled the growth, right? So let's say someone else was in a similar situation. They go, look, I don't have any money, but I got really good credit. I don't even have any time or knowledge, but I'm willing to partner with you. Great. So, one of the things we're looking at now is we're looking at like 101 units down in Montgomery, Alabama. And we're looking
Okay.
at taking it over, and we're looking at doing it as a sub two. Um, but the seller really doesn't want the loan in his name. Now, the loan is assumable. So we're like, okay, normally we wouldn't do assumable loans, but the balloon payment is in 2 or 3 years anyways. It's like there's two loans. So we're looking at it going, well, we're going to have to refinance in 2 or 3 years anyways, and it's going to be on our name at that point anyways. Maybe we'll just assume the loans now and just get in there that way. It's still kind of like we're just taking it over. It got to the point where the seller actually told us, because one of my partners was talking to him and goes, well, what is it? What's the motivation? Why don't you want to do sub two? Is it like a down payment thing? Would you want some money? Because we're just going to take it over sub two, no cash to sell it. And he goes, no, it's not really a money thing. He goes, in fact, I'd pay you 100 grand to take over the loan. And I was like, you'll pay me to take over the loan and take over your property that you just want to get out of? Like,
Hmm.
that's the interesting thing with real estate. It's like you never know what the person values. Like this investor, he lives in New York. He's got multiple properties in New York. He bought this a couple years down in Alabama. He's not there. He's doesn't know how to manage it, or is having a hard time finding someone to manage it. Like for him, he's like, I just don't want this headache anymore. Like I just
Yeah.
want to be done with this. And like now some of the units need to be repaired. So he's like, well, I don't want to go put a bunch of money into repairing it and then keeping it and stuff.
Right.
The
He
ones that
he
need to
just
be
wants to
repaired
hand the headache off.
wants to hand the headache off. And so to him, it's literally worth, he goes, if you take this over and take over this loan and just take this whole thing off my hands and do it quickly, I'll pay you to eliminate my problem. Right. Because that's the difference. Like when you
Nice.
have money, you will gladly trade money for time or
Yeah.
trade money for less problems. That's why rich people pay other people
Hire
to do
people.
things. Right? They hire people. They go, wait,
Yep.
I don't want to
Yep.
cut my own grass. I will pay someone to cut my grass. I don't want to do my own taxes. I'll pay someone to do my taxes. Right? They. So it's like if you are in that position, it's very easy to say it's worth it to me to give you money to take this problem off my plate.
Mhm.
And so for us, again, let's say a credit partner, we would go ahead and say, hey, come on in, be our partner. They got stellar credit. The bank looks at them as part of our partnership and they go, oh, cool. We believe that, based on this business, obviously you're gonna be able to pay it back. And this person's got really good credit. So that helps it. Boom, you're approved. These loans move over into your name. Now they get ownership in 101 units that currently, without being full, make money. And so now we can come in there and maybe we bring in another partner that has money and they come in as a potential partial owner as well, and they put up a little bit of money. And we go, cool, we're going to use your money to rehab these couple units, and now we're going to rent those out, and then we're going to raise the rents on the other ones. And now this thing is making a lot of money. In fact,
Right.
again, I think again, I don't want to throw out numbers, but like significant returns per year for people.
That's awesome.
And so there's different ways you can get into deals.
Yeah. Well, and that I think again that's something knowledge is power. I think that was I mean my biggest downfall before finding this community, and I feel like every day I'm learning something new still. And I hear people, that are have been in sub 2 for quite a while, and I'll still hear them make comments about, "Wow, I'd never heard of that," or so it's pretty cool to be around people that we're constantly doing deals, and there's always a way to figure it out. It may not be a way that you've done before, but there's always a way to get the deal done and to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that that's awesome, and that's again, I think it's mindset and it's an excuse to just say like, oh, I'm just stuck, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't really like my life right now, and there's a way to change it. You just have to be committed and consistent to changing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You have to be willing to take a little bit of a risk so that you can make your life better. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. I remember a quote when we were at Squad Up Summit and Jerry Norman was on stage and he said this
Hmm.
quote. And as soon as he said it, I was like, man, I love that quote. Like
I already
I'm like,
know what
this
you're
is
gonna say, and I
this
can't wait to hear it.
resonates. He he's like he was talking about this story where him and his wife are at dinner and they're talking with their friend, like Jerry's friends, who he like grew up with. And again, your listeners know Jerry's story, Jerry Norton's story. Like he was digging ditches, like in the dirt, manual labor, no money, coming home, and like his wife wouldn't even let him in the house. He was so filthy dirty that he'd have to like strip down in his backyard to just be able to enter the house because he was so filthy because he was just doing grunt crap work, right? And he then started flipping cars for like 5K and then moved up to like small houses and kept building up to the point now. I think he's building like luxury homes in Puerto Rico, making
Hmm.
literally millions of dollars per home that he sells or something, right? So it's huge growth. And his friends at the dinner table, they're like, so, Jerry, what do you think's the secret? Like, why are you so successful? We all came from the same place. Like, what's different for you? And Jerry, great guy, very nice. He's trying to, give all the politically correct answers and saying things, and it's
He's
hard
very
work,
humble.
super humble, right? And it's
Yeah.
funny. He talks about how his wife goes, no, 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 no. I'll tell you guys the real reason. The reason that Jerry is where he's at is because he's willing to push outside of his comfort zone. That's it. And then Jerry kind of is like, yeah. He goes, and this is the quote he ends up saying. He says, "Your income is directly proportional to your risk tolerance. The more you have risk tolerance, the more income you'll make. Like if you're willing to risk a little bit more, you will make a little bit more. And so like you just got to keep like if you have a bubble of like here's your risk tolerance, you just have to keep expanding it. That doesn't mean that like you don't take stupid risk, right? Like it's not like you
Right.
take all the money in your bank,
Calculated
pull out
risk.
a home equity line, and go to the casino and go, I'm gonna put it all on red and like drop it. Like that's dumb. That's not a risk. That's just being dumb, right? But like taking calculated risk and willing to take a shot and willing to keep doing things, right? Like your risk tolerance, you get a little bit past your comfort zone and you just keep pushing yourself because what you're really doing is you're pushing yourself to grow. And just like you're saying, these people that are in the group that they've been in for years and they're still learning something new. That's the difference. Like when you think you know everything or you get too comfortable and you say, I'm just gonna chill, that's when you stop growing. And when you stop learning and you stop growing, I think a lot of times then your income starts shrinking, right? Like
Yeah.
you go into like this wealth preservation mode. And I think, it's like an old football adage that like, the best defense is a good offense kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
some of the best way to preserve your wealth is to just create more wealth. And the way you create
Yep.
more wealth is by learning more things and doing more things and pushing yourself to push that risk tolerance so you can get into better stuff.
Absolutely. So where that deal in Alabama, where did you guys how did you come across that? Was that within sub 2 or
No, so it was there was a wholesaler that I came across months ago. He was like on Investor Lift. I must have just called him on one of his deals or something like that. And it's one of those things where it's like you just hit off on somebody, right? Like
Mhm.
you work with different people, and some people you jive with, and some people you don't. And me and this guy, like, we just got along, right? It was just like just clicked, right? I was like, dude, I like you and stuff. Like I want to work with this guy more. And I started telling him about creative, right? And like he had kind of heard about it, but he didn't really deal with it. Like, and they wholesale like a ton. Like I see their stuff come across all the time. And he's like, all right, cool. And so like we just kept talking, and again, kind of with like the same mentality of pace of like, let's provide value first. Like I was just like, hey man, I'm happy to share and tell you everything I know. And like if this helps you to go and close more deals or wholesale more, assign more deals, whatever, like God bless. Like, I'm here to help. So like I would just tell him stuff. And so it got to the point where he was like, hey man, from now on, anytime we get anything creative, like, do you mind if I send it to you first? I was like, do I mind? Like, no, that's awesome. Like, you're
like,
gonna give me
please.
first right of refusal? Like, please, yes, okay. And so I ended up meeting his partner, and again, same thing, just real solid dudes, right? And like, I'm not gonna lie, like Christina, my wife, my business partner, and I, we've taken some shots where we've tried to partner with other people because again, I like partnering with people. Like, I
Yeah,
like
it's
helping other
fun.
people create value. I like doing stuff with people, right? Having those
And
shared
it builds a
experiences.
relationship. Like there's
Yeah.
really something to be said about like when you hit it off, like you mentioned the connection, like there are just some people, like even me and you, we just
Hmm.
had this like connection, we started talking, things just start flowing, right? It comes
Yeah.
natural. You don't feel like you're networking, right? Like that's
Right.
all the owners club events that we go to. It doesn't feel like work. I mean, we're
No, she'll feel
working, but it
comfortable.
doesn't feel that way. But when you have those people that you actually get a deal done with, it takes
Hmm.
your relationship to a whole nother level.
Yeah. So Christina and I, we've tried to partner with a couple people, and we've been burned a couple times. Again, it
Yeah.
happens. Not every deal goes well. Some deals go bad. I literally had a real estate agent that I was doing a deal with, and I was about to sell it. He couldn't sell it for like 6 months, and then like within a month we were going to do it. And then he went and got some other offer that was like a little bit higher, and he basically told me like, "Hey, you should just let the contract go." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I got this other deal, like this other one." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, if they're making more money, would the seller want to like pay me a little something, like not as much as I was going to make, but like a little something, and I'll let the contract." He's like, "No, you should just." And he found some loophole and like got out of the contract, right?
Hmm.
I was like, "Man, that's kind of like," and like this is someone that like I was planning on doing a whole bunch of stuff with.
Right.
So like not every relationship ends up working out, right? And again, in fairness, like no grudge against the guy. He's just doing what he does best. I've still talked to him sometimes, and so I would still, look at it, work with him, or whatever. But like this other guy that I met, the wholesaler guy and his partner, like we just clicked, right? And so it's like when you find people like that, you want to work with them, you want to do deals with them. And so I've actually partnered with them to do more wholesaling and help them open up another market because like I've got a marketing company as well. And so they were very big here in the Chicagoland area, right? And we basically came down. I was like, dude, what do you need? Like, what would help you? He's like, honestly, just like more marketing, more leads. And I was like, cool. I
You're
go,
like, oh,
look,
perfect.
I'm like, I like you, and like maybe this would be bad, but like, what if I just funded some marketing and just ran marketing for you? You guys, like, because I'm like, it's funny. So for me and Christina, like, I feel like when people get into real estate, like they start with wholesaling, because typically
Mm,
wholesaling is like, I've got no money, I don't got
Yep.
the connections, but I got that time, right? So you're like, I'm going to go do the
Hmm.
wholesale, and you make a little bit of
Doesn't
money.
doesn't cost anything to get into. Yeah.
Right. Doesn't really cost anything, right? Then you go to that fix and flip that, and you're like, all right, I know how to do some stuff now. I got a little bit of connections. I'm going to do some fix and flips, right? And then eventually you jump to buy and hold because you're like, well, buy and hold, like, ultimately that's where it's at, right? And so for us, we jumped all the way to buy and hold. Like we just got right in and we didn't even go single family. Like we went right to like multifamily, right? And so then now we're trying to like work backwards. And so I was like, oh, we should do some wholesaling and get like some today money, right? Because then we'll be able
Right.
to go and do more deals, right? Because you're only limited by the amount of capital you have, really.
Right.
It's not deals. Like there's a million deals out there. It's just limited by like the capital and time that you have. So I'm like, let's do some wholesale. But we were looking, going like, oh, well, then I got to build a whole wholesale team, right? You got to have your VAs, you got to train people, you got to feel call. I go, I don't want to build all that, right? So when I got with him and I was like, what do you need? He's like, honestly, I need a partner with some money to just run some ads because he's got like 9 VAs. They have these meetings, they train them. I see them bringing deals out all the time. I'm on their list and stuff. I'm like, cool, let's do this. I'll run some marketing from you. I'll front the cost, and then afterwards, let's just rev share on the deals that you sell. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so it's a little bit of a risk for me, but also like, if one deal goes through, right? It's like, cool, I'm going to make all my money back and
Right.
be at a profit and stuff. So it's like, it's a risk, but like, it's not, right? And
Yeah.
so that's how we got started. And so we've actually partnered up to do deals that way. And so when you got this one, the guy in Alabama originally just wanted to sell it, right? And I was like, and so he's like, hey, I don't know if you want this. I'm like, well, we could do sub two or seller financing. I'd be open to it. And again, we just keep talking, keep working, keep talking, and then eventually that's where the conversation goes. And where we're at right now, um, and again, going back to before, like there was problems along the way. Like at one point, my guy was dealing with another broker, and that person's like, yeah, there's a lender in place, and they will give you a loan to refinance. So like you can buy this property and take it over subject to, and it's cash to the seller, but the seller wants you to refinance in a year. But don't worry, there's a lender in place that will already refinance you out. They've already done an appraisal. It's worth more than what you're buying it for, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, that sounds like a good deal. I'm like, sounds a little weird. Like, if there's a lender in place, like, why hasn't somebody else just used that lender to
Right.
buy it, right? So I was like, oh, here, I'm going to pass you on the information. I go, cool, and I give him a call. Turns out, no, it's just a mortgage broker. It's just a loan broker. She's like, like, I'm like, is there like a financing already in place? And she's like, well, no. Like, I don't even know who the borrower is. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, they told me, she's like, no, they just told me you would call and maybe want to get a loan in the future. I'm like, okay, so
Oh
that was me.
man.
We went back to that broker. We're like, dude, what? Eventually, he got out of the deal. So it's like, all right, now we got to restart. Now we're talking to the seller, and the deal changed and stuff. So like, you're gonna run into obstacles, but you just find ways around them,
Yeah,
And
you
again,
figure it out.
eventually, we got to the part where he's like, look, if you assume this mortgage, I will pay you 100 grand, and you can just take it over. Okay, that's where we're at now. And so, we're gonna keep pursuing and see, but if it works, then it could be a really lucrative project for us.
Well, the thing I like about deals like that, and I think each deal you do, right, it gives you more tools in your toolbox. I think every
Yep.
deal, especially when you go creative, every deal is different.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with sellers that maybe their pain point is they just want to get out and they don't want to deal with the headache, or maybe we were dealing with a business acquisitions where they're having, family health problems. So there's so many different things that you can come into play. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it just kind of like adds another notch to your belt, another, thing in your brain where now you can be that much more creative on your next deal because you're like, oh, I've dealt with this before, or,
Yeah.
we did this or we did that. So I really like hearing about people's deals and because they're all different.
That I agree 100%. That's the nice thing. I feel like I'm a naturally curious person. It's one of the nice things with the marketing company, right? Like I feel one of the great benefits of having a marketing company is over the years now, I've talked to businesses all over the country, right? In all kinds of different industries and verticals. And I've gotten to like peek behind the curtain a little bit and like see how they work, right? Because my first question was like, okay, well, like, what do you do? Like, how does it work?
Right.
Like, how do you monetize? How does your company run? Like, if I'm going to go and generate leads for you, what happens to those leads? Like, what's the process? Like, I want to understand it so I can hopefully help out any way possible, create value, and make sure that the campaign's successful so they keep buying more ads from me, right? But the beautiful part for me has been like, I get to figure out how all these different businesses and all these different verticals and all these different parts of the country work And then for me, I get to take all that information. And now anytime when I'm looking at other businesses, I go, oh, you know what?
Mm.
They did this thing. I could probably apply that principle here. Ooh, now we can pull that here. We can pull that here. And so you can make businesses better by aggregating that information. Again, it's the same thing like being in sub two or being an owners club. It's like if you get to interact with all these other people and you get to aggregate all of their experiences, all of their knowledge, all of their information, like that's how you get better faster. That's how you accelerate growth. Like
Yep.
it makes me think of this story from Mr. Beast, right? He's like the biggest YouTuber ever, right? And someone was asking one time, like, well, how did you get good? And he's like, here's what happened. He goes, I was in high school. I knew I didn't like school. And my mom wanted me to go to college, but I knew I wasn't going to go. He's like, I found some other people that were into this YouTube thing that I was into. And this was like way early on when YouTube was like first getting going, wasn't anything. He goes, I would literally wake up and I would get on and I'd be doing YouTube and I'd be doing, filming stuff and editing stuff and making thumbnails. He goes, but I had like 9 other friends, right? And they were on like maybe a Discord server or some group chat, something, right? And he's like, they would all do the same. So he goes, literally there was 10 of us and we would spend 12, 16 hours a day, every single day, just testing stuff, doing stuff, filming stuff, and then all collaborate, right? And literally like changing the light, the resolution on the thumbnail just a little bit, right? And like testing it on different stuff and like analyzing all these. He goes, so think about it. He goes, I spent a lot of time, but now multiply that by 10. There was 10 of us and we all shared everything. So like, think about how fast we grew and how much we learned because we were all collaborating together. And
Yeah,
like,
you're able to
that's
kind of
the
skip some steps because
you
of
still
other
you can skip
people's.
the
Yeah.
steps, right? And
Yeah.
also someone goes, "Oh, I just figured out if you make it the font this size, you get a much better response rate." And now everyone goes, "Cool! From now on, that's the size we use." And like because of one person found that one thing because
Mm-hmm.
they spent 20 hours researching the font size of every successful video, they knew it. But like everyone else benefits without spending that 20 hours, right? Because they were just
Right.
spending 20 hours on some other problem. It's the same thing with this group or with anything, right? It's like that's why books are the written word, right? Like being able to take the information that someone else fought hard to learn, and they can just go, "Oh, here you go.
Here you
I
go. Yeah.
figured it all out for you. Take it," and you
Yep.
just boom. That's the key.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. So what in regards to like any deals you currently have in the pipeline, if somebody's watching this, where can they jump in? I'll have you send me like all your tags and stuff.
Yeah,
But do you have anything in the pipeline that if somebody's like, "Hey, I wanna get started?"
yeah. So the best way to probably contact me is probably through the real estate company Level 19 Homes website. It's just level19homes.com. There's forms there that can contact me. My number's on there, I think, and everything. Or Steve at level19homes.com is email. So the real estate stuff, like I said, we've got a flip we're doing in St. Louis. We've got this 101 multifamily out in Montgomery. We've got a couple other properties that we're wholesaling off or selling off. So again, if people are looking to get into it that way. I'll tell you the other thing though that I'm in right now that I'm looking at is acquiring another business. So
Okay.
I love real estate, but I also love businesses, right? And so you'd mentioned about you, I think you said you guys acquired a business from someone who was the owner was having some health issues. And
Working
so
on it. Yeah. Yeah.
working on
So
it.
we're in the midst still. We're still negotiating, but
So
yeah,
we just
business acquisitions, I've found that you can scale the cash flow quite a bit
yeah.
quicker than real estate. So,
hmm Yeah, I that's the thing too. Again, like it's funny, like that's why I jumped into multifamily over single family, right? I
mhm.
created like this little spreadsheet and I was like, and I'm analyzing like rental rates and costs and all that stuff. And then I was like, what if I had one more unit? Like what if it was just a 2 unit, right? Not even like a big multifamily, just like a little bit more. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah,
the numbers are so much better, right?
so
And
much
so
better.
therefore we're like, well, I just want to do multifamily. Like clearly if it's even just one more unit, it's so much better. But then the same thing is like with businesses, right? So we acquired a business, me and a partner about a year ago. Um, and it's the same thing that you're saying. It's like I love real estate. Real estate's great, but like if you acquire a business and it's the right business, you can really ratchet up that lever and make it much more profitable, like potentially very quickly,
Yeah.
and create a lot of value there. So we're looking at acquiring more businesses. Actually, there's one that we're looking at now um, that's a like a specialty plaster company here
Okay.
in Chicagoland area because so we've got the real estate company, but it's a real estate investment company, right? We're buying and selling. So I've got an electric company. Now I go with the the plaster kind of framing, maybe some painting stuff. So if I can find more and more companies that can vertically integrate around real estate and around like quote unquote boring services, right? Like your normal stuff. Like there's a plumbing company that a family friend has that I've already had conversations with him, and he's getting to the point where he's like, he's pretty much now at the point. He's like, yeah, in a couple of years, like I'm just going to sell you my business. I was like, cool, I'll be here when you're
Like,
ready. Like I want to find like because the one idea is like eventually like if I could acquire all the businesses that real estate uses, then my real estate
oh,
company could use all those businesses and then I could go and take all those businesses and bring them to all my friends and other investors I know
mm-hmm.
and go, oh, you're investing? What do you need? In fact, I'll give you the family and friends discount. I'll hook you
Yep,
up. You keep
that's
me the business, I'll
exactly.
give you the discount, you know?
Yep, me and my partner were looking at a painting company in Nashville,
Yeah.
and that was our thing. Was like, well, we're both in, so he's in Sub Two. I think he's in Cody Sanchez's group. I'm in Owners Club, and like the resources that we have, the connections that we have, just within the community, just that,
Yeah.
not doing any networking and marketing just for the business outside. But we can easily just go, hey, you've got 10 properties in Nashville, like we'll give you a deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can, it's really cool to be able to kind of tie the two in together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're at too, is like painting, windows, roofing, all the
Yep.
quote unquote boring businesses,
I love
that
them.
you can tie in. That's where we're at as well.
Because like those are also the businesses I feel that like I love AI, but like AI is not taking over a painting business. Like until they,
No.
I mean, I don't think so. Like maybe eventually we're going to have robots that are
Right.
driving our cars and
God,
working in
I
our
hope not.
factories and
Yeah.
painting our houses and stuff. But like, I don't think we're there yet. Like you still need people to do some of those things. So like those
Yeah,
businesses, I'm like, they're going to be around, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so well, and then so on top of that, I guess let me tell you, so I'm capital raising for, have you ever heard of Evervested Capital?
No, tell me about it.
So I'm capital raising for them. They do bridge loans for established businesses that are looking to exit with an SBA loan. So if that's
Okay.
something you're ever interested in, if you're looking to purchase a business and you don't necessarily want to deal with the timeline of the SBA loan to get in, and you kind of need quicker funds,
Yeah.
um, that's another route that you could
So
consider.
they'll give a loan to me to buy a business as long as my plan is to refinance them out with an SBA loan. But if
Yep.
I need to move faster than the SBA, that's where you come in and that's how you're creating the value.
Yep. Yep. So I mean, so the
Awesome.
team, they do all the underwriting and stuff. I'm just capital raising for them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, if the business is cash flowing and it's something that will work for SBA, but SBA just isn't moving quick enough for you,
Yep.
they offer that where it's a bridge loan. So you're anywhere from like 3 to 6 months with them, and then
Yep.
they help you go through that whole process before they even fund the business. They help you get everything through to SBA, and then that way they fund it, you can close on the deal, and then you can exit through SBA.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so
And
it's pretty cool.
that's the thing I love is like solving problems, right? Like
Mhm.
there's so many businesses, even within businesses, of just like, well, I want to buy a business. Okay. Well, I need money. Well, you can go to the SBA. Okay. Well, but the SBA takes too long. Okay. Well, get another business. It literally just solves that problem. Like that's
Yep.
it, again, just finding ways to create value, finding ways to solve problems. Like
Yep.
I try to tell my kids, like, I go, here's how you want to get paid, create value. You want to create value, solve problems. You solve
Yep.
problems, you create value. If you create value, you will make money. You will be wealthy. You will
Absolutely.
have economic security.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are the businesses that do the best, is solve the problem of the consumer and you will do well.
Yeah.
If that's your main focus, you will do well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
that's
cool.
awesome.
Well,
Well, this is
thank you
great.
for joining me today. Yeah, this is again just a great conversation with a great friend. I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Yeah,
I will make sure I plug all your info so people
I
can
will
get in
get that
touch
all
with
to you.
you, and yeah, we'll continue to keep in touch, and you'll be in Boston. Okay. Awesome. Well, have a great night.